Started?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about something called, last session we discussed what are classes and objects. If you look at this, so in a namespace called my employee, we have a class called employee. In that, we have a method called accept method, and we have another method called calculate salary, and we have another method called display. So like this, we were writing a class in which you have some data members or member variables followed by some methods. So data members are used to store the data, followed by the methods are used to do some operation on the data. Means we can perform some logic, some operation on the data with the help of the methods. So now we are talking about a special method called constructor today. Okay, so let's get started with the constructor. Okay, so in C sharp object oriented programming we are talking. In that the topic is constructor. So what is constructor? It is one of the important topics in interview, guys, because in interviews definitely they'll ask you, do you know constructor, what is it? So you know different types of constructors, like that they will ask you questions. Okay, so let's get started with the constructor. It's a special member function which has the same name as class name, and it is used to initialize the data members of the class. So that is the purpose of the constructor. So what is the first thing? It's a special member function. So what is special? Why it is called special means, first thing is the name of the method and the class name should be same. That is the first thing. That is why it is special. And the purpose of the constructor is to initialize the members of the class. Of course, we can initialize the data members without using constructor as well. But why it is special means it will be called implicitly. Called implicitly. Implicitly means automatically as soon as we create object. This is how it is special. So as soon as we create object of any class, constructor will be invoked automatically. That is how it is special. But normal methods, if you create any method like accept, calculate, display, whatever name you give, those methods you have to call explicitly. Then only those will be called. But whereas a constructor will be called implicitly, means automatically. So as soon as we create object, it will be called. And what are the extra things, like we can pass arguments to a constructor. So we can pass arguments just like normal methods. But constructor doesn't have return type. Doesn't have return type. That's why it is a special return type. Return type we should not give it. If you give a return type like void or integer or something, it is an error. So we should not specify any return type to a constructor. That is how it is different and it is special. So normal method will not be called implicitly. Okay, and normal method uh, can have arguments. Constructor also can have arguments. That is similar feature anyhow. But the different thing is constructor doesn't have any return type. But normal method should have a return type. At least we have to say void as well. Okay, so that is how constructor is different. And how many types of constructors means there are different types of constructors. We will be starting with the first type, that is default constructor, also known as instance constructor. Instance constructor. Why do we call it as instance constructor? Because as soon as the instance is created, automatically constructor will be invoked. That is why it is called as constructor, default constructor or instance constructor. And we can also call it as parameterless constructor. Parameterless means we are not passing any parameters to it, so that it is called as parameterless constructor. Okay, or argumentless constructor, you can call it like that. Second one is parameterized constructor. A constructor which is having some parameters or which is taking some parameters, that is called as parameterized constructor. The third one is there is something called special constructor called copy constructor. So if you wanted to copy an object into another, then we can make use of copy constructor. I'll tell you with examples guys later. And the last one is static constructor. Okay, so like this we have different types of constructors in C sharp. So is it clear, Oma? Are you understanding?
Yes, sir.
So let's see practically so that you'll understand more clearly. So it's a special member function which has the same name as class name, and the purpose, the main aim of a constructor is to initialize the data members of the class. Interviews they'll ask you what is constructor. Suppose if you say it's a special member function which has the same name as class name, and it will be called implicitly. Okay, then they'll ask you what is the purpose of a constructor. The answer is to initialize the data members of the class. We use constructor. That is the actual purpose of a constructor. Then can we pass arguments to constructor? Yes, we can. Okay, and they will ask you, can we have a return type? No, we shouldn't keep any return type to a constructor. So let's get started with the example. Let's switch to Visual Studio. So in the first example, just I'm creating a new uh, class which contains a constructor and a normal method, so that we will see how does it different from each other. Okay, so let's go to console app.net framework, click on next, and let's make it as, let's say, oops demo 8 7. Click on create. So now we are creating a class called sample, in which I'm creating two methods. One is a normal member function or a normal method. The second one is I'm creating a constructor. Both I'm going to create, so that we will see the difference between two. Okay. So we have a namespace called oops underscore demo 7 now, in which we have a program class which contains main method. So now what I'm going is I'm going to this solution explorer. Here I'm adding a new class by right clicking on the project name, add. In that we have an option called class. So here I'm selecting, I'm giving class name as sample. You can give anything guys. Sample is my file name, sample.cs. Click on add. So you can give any name like employee, student. So whatever class name is required, give it, and should be meaningful. It will tell you the content or the purpose of the actual operations you're doing. So right now I said sample because it's a sample test class, so I said it as sample. And what I'm writing is, here I'm writing a normal method. So like public void hello is a normal method. So here I'm writing console.writeLine hello from sample, like that I have written some single line. Okay. Okay. So So what we are doing is we have created a sample class. In that we have a method called hello. And if you go to program class, we have main method by default. I did not write anything. Now I'm going to write a I'm going to create instance of the sample class. So let's write a sample class now. Instance, how do we create object of sample class? Uma, any idea? Sample class object, how do we create? Sample is equal to, or sample s is equal to new sample. I can give sample or yes also, only yes also can give. So yes is the object reference variable. So object has created. So now I need to call this method called hello. Okay. So what's happening now? Just I created object of the sample class. This is called creating object. Okay. So that's it. I'm going to run the project now. Let's see what happens. See guys, nothing is there on the screen. Okay. Let's write console.read key so that we can see console.read key so that it will wait till you see the output. Yeah, so we don't have anything on the screen because we created object, but we did not write any, we did not call any method. So how do we call a method now? Using object reference variable dot method name. So here you can see hello method, and my class name is sample and hello method. So how do we call? We need to call yes dot hello, yes dot hello, so that you are able to call the method called hello from sample class. Now let's run it and see guys. You can see the output on the screen. Hello from sample is coming. So this is the way you can create an instance of a class and you can call a method. So it's a normal method. But now what I want to do is I want to create a constructor. So how to create a constructor? Let's create a constructor here. You can create constructor anywhere guys. There is no rule that constructor should be the first method. You can create in the next line. Here also you can create, or you can create here also. There is no rule. Okay. So I'm creating in the first. So how do you create? So you can add access modifier like public, and then the class name should be the same name of constructor sample. That's it. Curly brace open and close. This is the way we write a construct. Okay. So public sample. So public is access modifier because it should be available publicly to all other classes. That is the reason I added public access modifier, same as method. But here the difference is we don't have any return type like a method. A void is not there for this. Okay. And the method name, the constructor name should be same as class name. That is the important point that you need to remember. So it is a constructor now. So what is this? Constructor. So what type of constructor is this? Since we don't have any parameters inside it, that is called as a default constructor, or it is also called as parameterless constructor or instance constructor. So this way you can call it guys. Okay. So it's ready, and inside this what I'm writing is just I'm writing a console.writeLine constructor invoked message I'm giving. Okay. So that means constructor is called. So like that I wrote some message. Now I'm going to run this program. Okay. So we have a constructor and we have a normal method. So now what are we expecting guys? I'm not changing the code in a main method. The code remains same in a main method. Sample s is equal to new sample yes dot hello. I'm not calling constructor. Though I am not calling constructor, you will get constructor followed by the method called hello. Both will be displayed now. Let's try to check it out whether it is working as per our expectation or not. Look at the screen guys. You will see two messages. The first message is coming from constructor or default constructor. followed by the method called hello method. So both are coming. So constructor, did I call my constructor in this?
No.
No, but still constructor is invoked. So where the constructor is getting invoked as soon as we create object, means in this line only constructor is getting called implicitly, means automatically. So we need not explicitly call the constructor. That is the advantage. That is the specialty of a constructor. Whereas normal method, you have to call it. For example, I forgot now. I did not write this line called s dot hello. Then what happens? You will get only constructor message. Constructor only will be called, because for constructor you need not specify, you need not call it. As soon as we create object, automatically constructor will be invoked. But coming to other methods, you have to call them explicitly. For example, in the previous class we have something called accept method, calculate salary method, and display method. So those methods you need to call with the object name or object reference variable, like s dot hello, how I called, same way you need to call s dot accept, s dot calci, s dot display, like that you need to call explicitly. So that is the major difference between a constructor and a normal method. Hope you understand, huh?
Yes, sir.
So that's about constructor versus normal method. So we are done with the first type of constructor, that is default constructor, or also known as instance constructor. One more example on instance constructor. Actual purpose of constructor. What is the purpose of constructor?
Without calling, we can invoke.
Okay. What is the purpose? That is the feature of a constructor. It will be called automatically. Fine. What is the purpose of constructor? This is the purpose. To initialize the data members of the class. But in the previous example, like sample class, I don't have any members, right? So that
Yeah.
I'm taking another example in which we are initializing with the some details. Okay. So let's create a class now in the second example, and we are trying to uh, you know add constructor with some member functions. Okay. Yeah, let's close the solution, create a new project. Oops, underscore demo 8 I'm giving this time, console app.net framework demo 8. Click on create. This time we are creating a class called student. Let's go to project solution explorer, right click on the project name, go to add. So like this we can add multiple classes actually. So here the class name I'm giving as student. Student.cs will be there. So the class is ready, student class is ready. Here I'm giving the student id, first property. I mean, you can give properties like this, or you can write variables like this: private integer id or roll number. Okay. So like this I have taken one uh, data member called roll number. Then I want to give name of the student by saying private string name, student name. And I want to give something like a branch. Okay. Branch, which branch, or which branch or course joining. Okay, so that I have taken three members here. So now I want to create a constructor. So how do we create a constructor now, guys? How do you write a constructor? In the previous example, so let me copy paste these notes. In the previous example, so what was the previous? Let's open the project. So in the previous example, just we have taken like this. So we have a sample class, sample constructor, hello method, like that I wrote it. This is the first example, sample.cs. This is sample.cs. and then program.cs is common. This is program.cs. This is the previous example, guys. Just I'm keeping it for your reference. So now we are going to another example, second example. So in which we are creating a class called student. Okay, yeah. Student class is there. In that we have a three member variables because sample class doesn't have any member variables, but here we have member variables. So now I'm going to create a constructor. So how do we create a constructor? Public class name. What is the class name? So what is the class name here? Student. Yeah, you need to give student as the class name. That's it. This is the way to create a construct. But instead of writing manually like this, you can make use of shortcuts of a Visual Studio. Just by saying CTOR, just press tab. When you type CTOR and press tab, CTOR means constructor. It will come automatically. You need not write it. That is the advantage of Visual Studio. Okay. So now I'm writing code here. So what should I write? Of course, I can write constructor invoked message console.writeLine, but constructor is not meant for displaying messages. It's only for initializing member variables. So I'm writing now something like a roll number. What is the roll number value? I'm giving as 0. Okay, and name I'm giving as null means nothing, and then branch is also null I'm giving. So in this way you can initialize some values. Okay, so now I want to display these values using a normal method called display. So public void display. So this display method is going to display the values of roll number, name and branch. So I'm displaying console.writeLine roll number plus roll number, whatever is the property name, and then name of the student. So name I'm displaying here, followed by the branch or course. Branch may be CSC, CEEE, whatever is there that I need to display. Okay, that is said to be branch. Fine. Okay, so we have a default constructor with some default values. So why I gave 0 null means if you forgot to pass some values, I want to give these default values. That is the way I gave 0 null like that. If you don't want to give like this, you can give your own values also, guys. There is no rule that you have to give 0 null like that. You can give some like 101 name of the student, branch, like that. You can mention it. Let's run it normally, then we will, after this we will change it. Okay, so we have successfully created a class called student, in which we have three data members. These are said to be data members or member variables, and the student is said to be a default constructor or parameterless constructor or instance constructor, which is having some default values I gave, and this is a normal method. I need not mention it. Let's go back to main method. Now I need to create object of student class. Come on, guys, tell me how to create student class object.
Student.stu.
Student stu is equal to, or student is equal to new
New
student.
student.
That is the way to create object. So here we are creating object or instance. We can also call it as instance. Object of student class. Yes, object is ready. Now, do I need to call constructor, or will it be called automatically?
It will be called automatically.
Automatically, very good. So you need not you need not call the constructor. So what about the method called hello? Sorry, display. Do I need to call the display, or will it be called automatically? We have to call it, otherwise it won't be called. Let's check it out. What happens if I don't call? What happens? Let's write console.vp in order to see the output. Okay, let's run it and see. Just created an object of the class, but I forgot to call the Display method. Anyhow, constructor is called actually. If you want to know whether constructor is called or not, simple. You can go there and write one more method here, one more line, just to understand, guys. It's not compulsory. So you can write it constructor invoke like that. You can write it actually, but it's not recommended every time. Only for testing purpose, you can write it. You can see now constructor will be invoked, but display method is not called because I did not call it. So except constructor, remaining methods except default constructor, remaining methods you have to call them explicitly. So you have to call it. How do we call? Stu dot display. Then only this will be called. So you need to call it like this. Object name is stu dot display means then display will be called. Now you will get the message zero null null. Null means it won't display anything, empty. Okay. So I think we got some exception. So where is the exception? Okay. See this output, guys. Constructor invoked roll number 0, null is not displayed. Okay, empty. So in this way, it is displaying constructor invoked. It's perfectly working fine. There is no exception. But this message is not mandatory, guys. You can stop it. But we got the values right. 0, null, null. Null means nothing. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back and off this message. If you don't want to show the message constructor invoked, you can off that message. You can commit that message. Okay. But it is working fine. No boss, I don't want to display 0, null, null like that. I want to give some values. You can give it. Like as I said, you can give 101. You can give some name here. But what happens if I forgot to write a constructor? Suppose I don't have a constructor. Okay. I don't have a constructor. So I commented this case. Commented means there is no constructor right now. Just I have some data members and I have display method. That's it. But here I'm creating object, student object stu is equal to new student and stu dot display. So I'm executing this. Then what happens? I don't have constructor, right? Then what is the output you are expecting, guys?
Same.
Yeah, same output. 0, null, null. Why are we getting this? From where are we getting this? From a constructor. But I did not create any constructor. I don't have any constructor in my class, right? If you see the student class, this is commented. That means there is no student constructor. But still it is working because as soon as we create a class in C sharp, it will automatically create a default
Default
constructor
constructor.
without our presence. It will automatically add a default constructor. So we need not create it. That is the, that's why I shown you this example, guys. Okay. No, boss, I want to give some values to it. Then you can keep it in your, what you call class. You give your own values. Suppose I'm giving as 101 roll number, name I'm giving as Surya, and branch I'm giving as CS. Okay, so let's run it and see. This time it will be called. So whatever values are given, those values will be coming. Okay, roll number 101, name Surya, branch is CS. So in that way, you can give your own values also. There is no rule that you have to give 0, null, null like that. You can give your own values also. Okay, so this is about default constructor without any parameters. So now we will add another constructor. So what is this? Default constructor or parameterless constructor. So here I am saying default constructor is called or parameterless constructor is called. Constructor called or invoked. So now I want to create another constructor. Another constructor. How to create another constructor? Let's switch to this Visual Studio and we are going to the student class. Already we have a constructor, but I want to add one more constructor. How to add? Again CTOR, another constructor is ready. But this time I want to have parameters, because if you give like the same type parameters, two parameters without parameters, you will get an error. You can see here type student already defines a member called student with the same parameter types. So it is showing some error. So you have to give some parameters. So what I'm giving here, so I need three
Can we
variables.
change the name of the constructor?
Pardon?
Can we change the name of the constructor now?
No, we can't change the name. Constructor name should always be the same as class name. Only we can add parameters. If you add parameters, there is no error. So let's add parameters now. Integer RNO shortcut I'm giving. String uh, yes name I'm giving, and branch string like something course I'm giving. Course instead of branch I'm giving as course. So whatever value user is passing will come to RNO, that I need to initialize into roll number. So what should I say? Roll number is equal to RNO and name is equal to yes name. It's automatically coming, and branch is equal to course. So these are the parameters. So means local variables. So roll number, name, branch are member variables. So to these variables I need to initialize. That is the reason I wrote like this. R and O value I'm assigning to roll number, S name value I'm assigning to name, course value I'm assigning to branch. So what is this? This is called as parameterized constructor, because a constructor which contains some parameters, that is called as parameterized constructor. But this parameterized constructor has to be called explicitly, then only it will come. Okay, so let's go back to program.cs main method. So this object called stu, let's make it as let's keep it as this. Let's create another constructor because I wanted to call parameterized constructor, right? So I'm creating another class object. Student stu2 is equal to new student. So stu2 is a second class, second object of the same class, second student details. In that case, I need to pass some values. If you want to pass some values inside this constructor, okay. So what happens if I don't pass student2 dot display, stu2 dot display, I can call it like that. But if I don't pass these values, again it will call parameterless constructor. Again you will get Surya, and for the second student also you get the same values. See guys, constructor invoked, same values are coming, but second student, right, I need to pass my own values. So what to do for that? In order to call the parameterized constructor, you need to pass values here, 102 Uma, and I'm giving as ece, something like this. Okay, so here we are calling parameterized constructor, calling parameterized constructor. Okay, because we are giving some values here directly, right? Previously we did not pass any parameters. If we don't pass parameters means that is calling that. Okay, so in that way we are calling this, and now you will see messages for both. First object will have default values like what we have supplied so far. So let's give a new line gap, so that you will get this. See guys, first one is 101 Surya CSC, second one is 102 Uma EC. So just give a new line gap so that it will be good to see. Go back to this display method, give a slash in here so that it will come in a new line. Okay, yeah, yeah, let's run it and see. See guys, first object contains some default. This is coming from default constructor 101 Surya CSC, and this is coming from parameterized constructor. If you are confused, or if you don't know how it is working means, you can simply keep a line here, console.write line parameterized constructor invoked. Like that you can write it. It's not mandatory guys, you can put it for your reference, for your understanding. Okay, yeah. So now it's perfectly working. Parameterized constructor invoked, and you will see these values because I can pass whatever I want. But here default constructor, whatever I mentioned inside the constructor, those will be coming. So that is how we can see two different types of constructor. Normal default constructor without parameters. This is parameter constructor with parameters. I hope you understood, huh? Uma?
Yes, sir.
So let's copy this and paste it here in the second example. This is student.cs, which contains student details. Student.cs, and the second one is program.cs, which contains main method. This is a common class or main class, we can say. Okay, so in this way you can just go through this, do it in your system, let me know any issues. Okay, so is it clear?